Hello everybody, today we're going to be going over how to put in a new hard drive into a fresh load of Windows 11 on your new Asus ROG Ally. Now if you want to do it by using the utility built into the ROG Ally, the Fox already has a good video out there on that, and that is an option to do it. But if you'd like to just load your system up with a fresh, clean version of Windows and load all the drivers fresh, then this is the video for you. So I'm going to start off by showing you what to do as far as to get Windows and all your drivers loaded. And then we'll move over to the unboxing, switching out the hard drive, and loading Windows from scratch. So first thing is you're going to want to come to this page here, Microsoft.com/software-download/ Windows 11. You can just search for how to download Windows 11 and that will work just as well. So on this page, you don't want to do the installation assistant. You want to go down to download now for create Windows 11 media. So that's the first thing we'll do. And you see there's a media creation tool that it will download. So that'll usually go to your downloads folder. We're going to just go ahead and run that from here. And that will make a bootable image on our drive. Now I do have a 256 USB-C drive on here. I'm going to be doing this with a USB-C drive instead of going through some type of hub or docking station. That is an option if you have a standard USB, but this one just is going to be straight and simple. If you don't have a dock and you just have a drive, then that's the route I'm going for. So we're going to let this thing do it. It says use the recommended options for this PC. So we'll, I'm not sure what option that gives us there. I mean, these are the same options, so yeah, that's fine. And then we're going to put it on a USB drive. You can do an ISO file and do it yourself, but this handles everything for you and it will be bootable as soon as it's done. So we're going to be using this drive, which is a drive I used to have loaded up with some other stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and choose that and let it do its thing here. So this is going to take a few minutes. I'll probably go ahead and record all this, but fast forward through this section. I'm sure nobody wants to watch it make its progress downloading and loading everything. So we'll just leave it to do what it needs to do for right now. All right, so now it looks like our Windows drive is finally loaded. So we're going to go ahead and hit finish here. And that's just going to kind of clean up the downloaded files. Doesn't take very long. So the next thing we're going to do is go and check our drive over here. And I will bring this over here. And you can see that this is a standard Windows boot drive. I am going to create a new folder for ROG Ally drivers. And we're going to download drivers and put them in here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and download all the drivers for the ROG Ally. So I'm going to put links in the description for this because you can find it by searching, but it can be a little bit of a pain. So I'll just give you the direct link to get here. But basically, you've got BIOS and firmware, which you can choose to update to the latest BIOS. I did that through Windows already, but I am going to try this BIOS update and just see if it will let me update this or if it will say it's already done. So I'm going to get that BIOS update and then we're going to go up here and click on drivers and tools, and we're going to choose RC71. That's the only one in there right now. Obviously, if this is done later and you have a different BIOS, you'll want to choose that. So these can be a bit confusing. So we've got the Realtek LAN driver. I don't really see a need for this because there's no physical LAN on here. There is also the MediaTek WLAN driver. I don't think this is necessarily required either because you also have one for both Bluetooth and WLAN. I'll download it just to have it, but I don't think we'll need it. Then under chipset, you got to make sure you show all on these. Get your G sensor driver, get your AMD chipset. That is after your wireless, this is the first thing you install is your chipset. Now the Realtek console is going to be, so it says latest version of Microsoft Store. Don't download that from here, and I don't think you actually need it anyway. so I wouldn't worry about that one. Obviously, we want to look at the graphics driver. So we have options of the AMD graphics driver, and then you have the option of the control panel. I'm not going to put the control panel on. I'm only going to do the graphics driver. So I'm going to get the latest one here, which is the one up top. And then we're going to go to the card reader, show all here. Now there's multiple different card reader drivers, which is kind of weird because, based on this timing here, it looks like either March 5th or March 11th, and they've got very different version numbers. This is the one I'm going to go with, though, because it does look to be the latest. And then you've got a pointing device, which is the Rakiri Pro. That is the, let's see, I believe that's the name of their new gaming controller, but I'll download it just in case that's something we want to add to later. We've got the MediaTek Bluetooth driver. Now this is Bluetooth, but it does take care of your Wi-Fi as well. So we're going to go ahead and download that one. That'll be the first one we install. My Asus is at the Microsoft Store. We've got our focal fingerprint driver. Now, if you show all on here, you see fingerprint drivers below it as well. There's focal and EGIS. Now, I installed both of them just to be safe. I don't know if they just have different models in here because that's EGIS versus focal that they're using, but I'll install both of them when I do the load. So we're going to go in here and we're going to grab all of these downloads we just got, and we're going to copy those over here to the ROG Ally drivers. So once all those get copied, make sure you go and tell it to eject the media device, which in this case, you can see here is this SanDisk that I have, which is a USB-C, so I can plug it directly into the device or go through a some type of USB hub, that kind of thing. So I've got those in there. Everything looks good. I'm going to close out of that, and now I'm going to eject that. So now we're good to pull that out of the computer that you're doing this on, and from here we'll go ahead and jump into the video at another point where we're taking apart the ROG Ally and putting in a new hard drive. Alright folks, we are back and ready to go ahead and disassemble and put in the new hard drive. So y'all might call this sacrilege, but if you have a Steam Deck, I would take the case and use it just to try and provide a little cushioning for the front controls here while you work on it. So it's not a perfect lineup, but I like it better because it's a little bit more padding than just using the pad directly on here. So I've got the same screwdriver I used in my last video, using what's called a J13. So I'm going to start by taking the screws out here, and my understanding is some of these screws are longer and some are shorter. So I'm going to put those to the side here, kind of keep track of the order in which I take them out. I think it's only one that's shorter, so it's probably not a big deal. As long as you keep track of where that is. But anytime you work on any type of electronic device, it's good to keep track of the order in which the screws come out. So let's get this thing taken apart real quick. Looks like the ones on top are all long. Must be misjudging this one. I think they just come out further on the bottom than they do on the top. Okay, so that one looks like the same length. I think it's the middle one that's shorter. So we'll go ahead and get all these 5 out and then work on popping off the case here. Or work on that last one, which I think is the short one. Alright, yeah, it looks like all those are the same length. And then this bottom one here we're going with. Seems like it's kind of popping loose there. You can hear it kind of clicking probably. That one's struggling a little bit. Let's see if we can kind of pop this out while we're unscrewing it. This one's not want to come out. All the others were quite easy. We'll try this again. Does that one perhaps not come out? I thought it did. Well, it feels loose and it doesn't want to spin anymore. So this is not what I expected. I think it may stay in there. We'll give it a try. I'm going to be safe with it here. So I'm going to start up on the right here. Just see if we can get in here and start popping this loose. Now, I've got nails, so it seems to be working with those. That's great. So it came loose by just kind of popping my nails there. And yeah, it seems like this one here almost kind of stays in there. So you can see it on this side. So we'll just leave that one in. No need to pull it out if I have to fight it. So okay, let's line this up on camera here so you can see what's going on. So I've seen, even including the Fox in his video, said just kind of pull the drive out. This is the battery cable here, so if you want to just be safe about it, pull that battery cable loose. I don't really use a grounding strap either. I just been working on computers for years, and so you just kind of work this here so that you can get, let's use this, that'll help. Get underneath here, and you see we just got to kind of pull this back enough to get to it. So see if we can get this screw out here. Comes with a Micron 512 SSD. Now these types usually stick up after you pop them out. Okay, there we go. So yeah, if you don't have fingernails, it'd be helpful to use a little tool. When you put it back in, make sure you pay attention to the, let's see if I can get that to focus there. But yeah, you want to pay attention here. Come on, camera. I'm just not having luck today. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you see that little notch? That's going to go to the same side. So if you want to, just kind of keep that there. I've got my new Sabrent. It's a 2 terabyte I'm going to be putting in today. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that open. Package is hard to get into. Here we go. Look at that nice little case here. So we'll take that one out, and you see you want this to line up the way the other one did. So we're going to go ahead and take this, put it up here, and we just want to kind of slide it in there. This one doesn't go in quite like a one on a motherboard does. You do have to kind of slide it instead of putting it in at an angle and then pushing it down. So we slid that in. Now we're going to take the screw, which was already on the screwdriver. I never took it off of there. And we're going to put that back into place here. Then we're going to put this back down here, let it cover up like it was, tuck it in down there, and get the battery cable back into place. Should just pop back down in there. And then that's pretty much it. Pop this thing back on. We'll start from the left side since we took it off from the right side. This is, yeah, click it back in and then let's screw it back together. This is honestly much easier than the Steam Deck was to take apart. So we'll go ahead and start with that middle screw, getting it in there. Remember, we don't want these screws to strip, so just tighten them, but don't try and get them super tight. There's no need. Just make sure it's nice and firm without pushing too far. Yeah, these bottom ones screw in a lot more than the top ones. I think it's just thicker at the top, so there's more empty space. I love using power screwdrivers, but anything with small screws that strip easily I try to avoid. So it takes a little bit more time, but it's worth it just to stay safe. It's a nice brand new retail device. You don't want to mess it up. Yeah, these top ones go in much quicker. Alright, so let's check. Looks like our seams look good. Nothing seems way out of place there. So we are going to go ahead and move our Steam Deck case out of the way. And we are going to see about getting that power cord to plug in and then start it back up. Now, first thing I'm going to do is go into the BIOS just to make sure it recognizes the hard drive. So I believe you just power it on and hit the down volume button. I cannot quite remember if you hold it or just tap it. We do have power, so obviously that's a plus. Well, we're not getting much. It might be good to go ahead and start with just putting in the drive. So I've used this USB drive by SanDisk. Really works both ways. It's USB-C or USB-A. I use the USB-C method. So we can actually go ahead and turn this off. Oh, there we go. It was just asking. Alright. So we're going to boot with that USB-C drive in there and see if it can go straight to loading Windows. We might have to change the boot order. I'm not sure, but we'll find out in just a minute. So I'm not hitting anything this time, so I think it's going to go into the BIOS just because it doesn't have an operating system on it at the moment. So let's see, unless it goes directly to reading from there, in which case we'll just go straight to loading Windows. Which it looks like it did. That's great. So to be honest, your best bet would be to hook up a keyboard mouse here, but I'm assuming you don't have keyboard, mouse, you don't have a docking station. All that's extra cost. So you just go through the normal prompts. If you haven't installed Windows before, it's pretty straightforward on modern Windows installations. So basically accept some things, tell it what hard drive to use. Now we got a brand new one in here. So this is just your license terms, hit next. You accept them. This is upgrade or custom. I'm going to hit the focus here to see if that is readable. I think that is there. Okay, so we're going to say custom. We're not upgrading a blank drive. So if you see there, it shows my drive. I'm trying to see if it gets a good view of it here. Yeah, so that shows the 2 terabyte 1863. You might think that's off, but hard drive space is calculated using 1000 instead of 1024. And if you do the math, then it comes out to the same thing. It just depends on how you calculate a kilobyte. So we don't even have to do anything with this. If this is a brand new drive, if it was a drive with partitions, you would delete everything and format it. Otherwise, you can just go in here and hit next. And you can kind of see here, it's going to do its thing, and it's just going to go through and load Windows. So this will just take a few minutes. I'll just set the device down here. Let's see if I can actually zoom this in a little bit. And I'll probably speed this part of the video up just because, you know, it's not exactly the most entertaining thing. Okay, so at this point we're going to go through the Windows setup, and we are going to have to use a keyboard, at least a USB-C keyboard, or a docking station. Now in this case I'm using a docking station. Kind of zoom out there, you can see it. It's got a keyboard and mouse hooked up. But bare minimum you need a keyboard for one of the commands that we have to do. So we'll go ahead and run through this, and I'll show you where that is. Standard, everything. Now in a minute, it's going to ask us to connect to a network. Now, as you can see here, we don't have any networks because we don't have a network driver installed yet. So with that being the case, we're going to have to basically run a command in order to reset this and give us the option to continue without a network. So the command you have to run is Shift F10, and that's why you need a keyboard. There's no real way to bring anything up because none of these buttons will allow you to type, right? You can't put in a Shift F10. So we use the keyboard to type in Shift F10. And then of course it loses focus, so you have to click on the focus here. And you can either type using the keyboard on the screen at this point or the keyboard you have connected. Obviously I got a keyboard connected, so that one's going to be easy to do. So we want to turn on caps lock, and we want to type in OOBE \, and then you want to type in BYPASSNRO. And then we'll hit enter there. That'll reboot the device. And so that's basically going to restart Windows and allow us to go into the startup and select that we don't have a device there. We don't have a Wi-Fi card. We can't get connected. And of course we do. We just don't have the driver installed yet. So we'll go ahead and let this jump back in there. Then you'll be able to see my keyboard here. You can see my keyboard is just right below it. Got some RGBs going, so I kind of pull it out of the screen view there. So we'll go through our standard stuff here. Next, yes, skip, And then now you'll see we have this option for I don't have internet. So you can click that with your finger, or you can use your mouse if you have one connected. So we're going to go for that route. And then so you can either connect now, it keeps pushing that, or you can say connect with continue with limited setup. So that's the option we're going to go for, because right now we're not going to have this device connected. Not until we get Windows loaded, at least. So Ripper, everything's going to be simple for right now. It's going to ask you security questions. Obviously fill those in with the ones you want. All of mine are just going to be Ripper so that I can get past this. You can change this later, obviously, if you want to do something. Obviously this is not secure, but there you go. Childhood nickname, Ripper. Actually was my childhood nickname. Well, at least my, wow. When you can't see the screen, a little bit harder to type. That's at least the handle I used when I was younger. So I don't really like providing all the different privacy settings they give you. I use location and find my device. Everything else is just info I prefer not to share. Kind of set whatever you want, but advertising ID, that means they use your choices to advertise to you, that kind of thing. So I don't want them advertising to me. And this is really going to be used as a gaming handheld. So here we go. We'll let it go ahead and do its thing and get Windows ready. Now this might take a few minutes. Any of these type of portions I'm probably just going to fast forward through so that you don't have to stare at a screen for several minutes. Alright, so now you can see we're in Windows. We're going to be missing a lot of drivers. That's just how it is when you load a computer, and even though this is a handheld gaming device, it is essentially a computer. So you can see there's lots of devices here. So I'm just going to go ahead and run you through installing all those devices. We downloaded everything earlier, so you should be able to use those drivers to get things going. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the network driver, because that one is the most important. So, alright, we'll start without our data. We don't need all of this just to get it going. Obviously, nothing's going to work. We don't have a network device in there. Nothing yet. So, we're going to go ahead and go to the drive where we have our ROG Ally drivers. And the first thing we're going to do is just run this one. This is Bluetooth ROG MediaTek. There is a LAN one, which is what you would think you would use, but a LAN is technically a physical plug-in LAN, which is not on this device. So this one is Bluetooth and network. So we're going to install this one first. We're going to let it do its update, and then we're going to reboot it, and then we should be able to connect to the network at that point. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and log in, and, well, assuming I type in the password correctly, we're going to log in and choose to do the chipset driver next. So, something I can point out, if you don't want to have all these things hooked up, you can go into here and just copy your ROG Ally folder, and then go put it on your desktop or in your downloads, wherever you want to put it, just somewhere where you can easily access it. Okay, so now that we've got those in there, we'll go ahead and make things a little bit bigger, easier to see. Well, that's not really changing it well enough for me. But we'll do large icon view. Alright, never mind, we're sticking to details. So when you look at the list here, what we just installed was the Bluetooth one here. Now that Bluetooth handles Bluetooth and network. So you can see up here we have network. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to the network here. Obviously connect to whatever network you're nearby. Do not try to connect to my network. So okay, we're on the network. We should be good there. And the next thing we want to do is get the chipset driver. So chipset followed by graphics. So get this AMD chipset that we downloaded earlier in the video. And I typically don't restart for every single driver, but I like to do a restart when I do a chipset driver install and when I do a graphics card driver. So we'll tell this thing to reboot, and every time we have to reboot, I'll make sure that we just go through a fast forward on the video so you don't have to keep watching restarts. So we got that AMD driver. Then we're going to go through here, and you know what? Another thing I like to do just to make it easier is create a done folder. And I like to move the ones that I've already completed over to there. So we did the Bluetooth, we did the AMD chipset, and now we're going to do the graphic driver. Oh, it looks like it's loading some of those drivers that we just installed, which is good. Alright, we'll get the graphics driver going and reboot again, fast forward through that, and move on to the rest of the drivers. Alright, we're back again, and if you'd like to keep track of this, you can go to Device Manager. You just right click on the Windows here and go to Device Manager, and you'll see as you install devices they start to disappear in here. Now there's only one left here, but we still have a few more we're going to install just because we want the most up-to-date drivers. So we've got the graphics driver was just installed, so we're going to move that one. And at this point, all of these are pretty simple ones: fingerprint reader, controller, card reader. So these ones we're going to install, but I don't necessarily have to reboot. I am going to do the Asus BIOS update. If you haven't already done that, then you'll want to run this. Now, I've already done this through Windows Update. It did that earlier when I was testing with the device. So we'll see if it has a new update here. It might just tell us that there's nothing needed. Okay, this one said Windows, so I assume that it's a Windows utility to do the BIOS update, but we'll see if it launches into it here. Okay, so now we're coming back in here, and let's see if the Asus installed anything for the BIOS update. Don't really see anything. I guess we can try and check and see if anything's on the drive, maybe. Let's see. I don't think it's ROG Screen Manager. Okay, so it doesn't look like it put something, and I wonder if that's because I've already updated. But I will say my first time testing with this, Windows updates install the BIOS update for me. So perhaps it'll handle it that way. If not, perhaps this installer will work. But there's both a Windows one and a DOS-based one. So I guess you kind of do that however you want to. But if Windows will do the update for you, you just make sure that when you do it, you have to plug in power, and that you can't unplug it while it's going, because if you mess up a BIOS update, it can really screw things up. So we'll just go ahead and go into downloads. And so that was this BIOS update we just did. We've got the wireless LAN, but we've already got that going. tell you what, I will just do a quick speed test and see if I want to try and install the other driver, or oh, actually, it should have been speedtest.net. Ooh, that page did not look good, so let's just close it and try again. Okay, here we go. So we'll go ahead and start this speed test. Yeah, it's not too horrible for wireless. I have seen better. I've seen it get closer to around 400 at my house, and that looks like it's going up. So I would say that, yeah, we're pretty good as far as the wireless driver is concerned. I mean, look at that. Yeah. That's pretty nice upload speed. So I'm not going to try and install the other driver. I don't think there's a need for it. I'm guessing it's just a standalone driver, but the Bluetooth one kind of handled both of those. So, alright. So we're just going to go ahead and move this wireless one over here. And then at this point, we've got fingerprint readers, Xbox controller. We're just going to install all of these and then give it a reboot. We're not going to reboot for each one of them because they're more minor drivers. Like I said, I just like to do that for the main ones, like anything like a BIOS or a motherboard or a graphics driver. So nope there. And I don't know if we need both these fingerprint drivers, but it's not going to try and usually create a conflict. It'll install or use the one that it needs. So it shouldn't cause a problem. I did some testing with this earlier, and it seemed to be fine as well. So we'll run through all these real quick. Then give us our final reboot after that. And then we've got a few special things we need to do, which I will show you once we get back in here from this reboot. Some things that don't necessarily make sense, but you'll understand when you see what I'm talking about. And then of course we'll want to put on Asus ROG Armory Crate. I've used that software before on my main PC and I don't love it. But to be honest with you, I think it's kind of a mandatory software for this device, just because it keeps up with your power levels and all your settings. I mean, I don't think you'd want to try and use this without having Armory Crate installed. So that'll be one of the last things we do after we get the drivers working. Okay, so at this point, we can check our device manager, and you still see one unknown device. Now this one doesn't make a lot of sense, but if I find out more info on it, I'll let you know. But if you look at the details, you can see a value for the device. If you look at the hardware ID, you can also see NVDA 820. So that is an NVIDIA chipset driver, I believe. And even though this is an Asus ROG Allies all AMD device, it is still looking for something for that. So I'm going to show you how to get that driver installed. And this is where I said it just gets kind of weird. So now if you do the restore, it probably handles this for you. But if you want to do a full load, then you're going to have to be able to do this. Okay. Here we go. No, just let me download the drivers. So the easiest way to do this is just pick, 40 series. Really, all of them are the same, but pick 4090, pick Windows 11, game ready driver. search for that, download it. Now this is a large download, so it could take a little while depending upon your network connection, your internet speed. So we'll let that download, and then we're going to run this, but it's not going to allow us to install any graphics drivers. So that's where it's kind of weird, but I'll show you how to do this as soon as this gets done here. It's almost ready. So we're going to go ahead and open that file. And yes, you can launch it. You see, this right here is going to create the drivers in this NVIDIA display driver path. Now, once it closes the app, it's going to delete that. So the way to do this is go ahead and hit OK, and it's going to extract the files, and then it's going to try to search for an NVIDIA card, which of course it's not going to find because this is an AMD process here. So AMD APU, GPU, everything is AMD. So there's no NVIDIA, but this driver still requires it. So I'm going to let it go through and do that. And then we're going to go to our device manager like we did earlier. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can try and update it, but I'm going to let that just kind of do its thing. We don't need that. It's not going to find something. So you can pick update driver. So I would say browse computer for drivers, and then do not close this because it'll come up with an error in a second. But you're going to go to your PC, your local drive, NVIDIA, and you're going to go to this Win 11, Win 10 right here, and just hit OK. You're going to hit Next on there, and it should find the NVIDIA platform controllers and framework. Now, like I said, I can't explain why this device is on here. In fact, over there you can see NVIDIA installer cannot continue. So you have to get this installed before you hit close here, because then it deletes that directory. But that will update it, and then you will be able to see that you're not missing. You see it's listed here. So you're not missing any drivers at this point. So we can go ahead and close out of that, close out of this, and you can delete that file after you're done there. So it's a little strange that it requires that. So anyway, that just gets that one last driver out of the way for you. Now we're going to go to look for the Asus Armory Crate. You can just go straight to their web page for that. Just do a quick search. Yeah, it's always accept cookies. Well, good cookies. So let's see here. All right, download. So you can do the light package or full install package. Auto detect connected devices, download, install, manually select and install offline. So either one of these works, but this one's more up to date. So plus, I don't know if you really need this. It's going to auto detect what you need, so the light version should give you everything you need. So we're gonna open that, extract it, then run the installer. And so this process just takes a while. It'll probably take 5 or so minutes, and you can just leave it like this. If you want to play with these other things, you can, but to get the basics working, you just need to install Armory Crate. So this process, it'll go through. Sometimes it'll ask you for, do you agree? Do you want to continue? That kind of stuff. So you're just going to have to give it a few minutes to do this, and I will obviously fast forward through this part so you don't have to just watch it forever. But I'll kind of keep a watch on it here, and I'll skip through whenever it asks me a question. It's pretty straightforward. So we'll let it do its thing and just give it a few minutes here. Okay, so we're back here. We're just going to go through and agree where you can't use it. Run Armory Crate at startup. If you're going to launch everything from Armory Crate and not use this as a desktop, then I would recommend doing this just because it kind of starts you up and puts you right into gaming. So, let's see. This one just kind of talks you through the process. You can look at this, give you some good info, but you can also probably just figure it out playing around Tells you a little bit about how to customize your controls, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and run through this initial setup. Tells you how to kind of go through your game library. So obviously you want to go add all your games. Now remember, we just did this without a network connection, so you'll have to go tie your user account to the device. I assume, I can tell you what, I'll go ahead and go through some of that just so we can make sure people know how to do it if you're trying to load this and aren't familiar with that. And then, let's see, so you got your system. It even shows here all your stats, including the new hard drive that was installed, so whatever model you have. And that's the USB drive that's hooked up right now, so once that's unhooked, that would go away. But it shows your storage and everything. So, now the other thing you'll want to do is go into your update center and just make sure everything is up to date. So right here it says up to date, right here it says up to date. So it looks like everything is fine. You can check for updates, but being as we just downloaded all this, you're probably not going to have anything new out there. But I would do that from time to time just to keep things up to date. Asus has been steadily trying to improve this device even before it got in the hands of everybody, so that's kind of a plus thing. So looks like they do show an update here for the UWP app and core service. UWP is just a Windows app, so we'll go ahead and tell it to update that and get the latest. I don't think it will take too long for that. Alright, go ahead and launch this again. So at this point, this is probably where you're going to use it most of the time. You know, you can kind of go back and forth with your triggers here. I think the top ones, yeah. The bumpers. And if you want to, like, you can close this and it completely closes out of it. But this little Armory Crate app here, or button here, you can hit that and that'll just minimize it for you so you don't have to actually close it. So we've got Armory Crate installer. We did the weird NVIDIA driver thing. Everything looks to be up to date. So at this point, it's a matter of, do you want to sign in and get your main user on here? So we can just type in, let's see, users. So we can go in here and you see that there's other users. We just go into accounts. See, it has an option here for local account. That's what we signed in as. So if you want to use things like standard Windows stuff, or let me think, things like the App Store, or things like the Xbox Game Pass, which I know a lot of people want to use this for, then you're going to want to sign in. So, you know, when I take it here, it's going to ask me for my sign in. Do your sign in. I'm not going to go through that in here just so I don't share my personal information. But once you get signed in, then obviously you'll be able to have access to your Xbox Game Pass and install games just like you would on a normal computer. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to take this offline. I'm going to install maybe some games from the Game Pass. I'm going to install Diablo 4. That's a game I've been playing that I definitely wanted to be able to play on a handheld. And while you can play it on Steam Deck, it should just be much easier to do on here. So I'm going to do some of that offline and kind of go through the setup and testing. And I'll show you a little bit of gameplay on that as soon as I get that done. So I'll be back in just a second with some gameplay for you. Thanks, folks. Alright everyone, I am back after I got some things installed here. So we're going to show some Diablo 4 on here and just start it up and see how well it plays. I can already tell you it plays pretty well. And the sound is actually pretty good on this as well. I normally would use headphones for this, but I am surprised at how good the sound is. Alright, so I'm going to pick this up just so I can actually play it and show it to you a little bit. But I'm going to pick my Druid here, going to the Torment 4, and there's a lot of, I'm going to go and just kill some stuff and show you kind of how it works even with a lot of stuff going on the screen. I did notice it's a little bit slower in inside of the cities. Now I will tell you, you can probably see it doesn't have the best angle view, so it's kind of hard to see when I'm pointing it up at the camera like this, but it's alright. I'll look through the camera view to kind of look at it here. So I am in the city. Let's see if we can go outside here. I'm going to have to get a better view here. Let me go ahead and turn on the performance monitor so you can get an idea there. It is kind of right over the HUD, but you can see we're getting around 64 FPS. I'm playing in performance mode. I do want to point that out. There is a faster mode, turbo, but there really isn't much difference in speed. So I'm just going to keep it on performance here, and it plays very well. Let's see if we can just go try and find something to fight outside here. Alright, let's hope I don't die since I can barely see here. So, as you can see there, it seems to play fairly well. We're getting around 70 FPS, which is really a lot better than I thought. I'm not playing on the highest settings, but it really looks brilliant on this handheld, I'm telling you. So, anyway, there's a little gameplay there. I'm going to go ahead and quit out of it here, and I'll show you a little bit more gameplay on just another game that I've downloaded. So we can hit this and we can check out some of these games. I haven't tried any of these yet really, except for Battletoads, and that's through Game Pass. So I'll bring that one up real quick, and it actually plays really well also. Oops, I did not mean to do that.
That is a nice-looking spaceship.
I'm just relieved it's not another ambush.
Yeah, how come there's never anyone around here until they want to fight and then they magically appear?
Some things we'll just never know, Rash. And some will just have some really, really loose justification.
Looks like I picked a boring part of the game, but you can see it plays really, really well. This is not probably the most demanding title, but still, definitely fun. Oh. I've got to get this guy to stop electrocuting me. There we go. Alright, so anyway, there's a little bit of that game. Really plays well so far. I did try it a little earlier with Diablo, and obviously it's going to eat up the battery life quickly. It's not as good as the Steam Deck, but a lot of times I'm going to be playing near a plug anyway, so it's not that big a deal for me. But anyway, thanks for checking it out, y'all, and I'll make some more videos about this soon.